Joining me now to discuss the recent protest and its implications is the Director General of the International Institute of Professional Security, Tony Ofoye. Tony, it's good to have you join us on the news. Well, so far, a key concern for many observers as this protest linger is the presence of even more brutality on protesters as well as arrests. What do you make of them?
Thank you very much for having me. I think I said this in one of your other interviews that there's the necessity for the police to understand the art of crisis management and crowd control, especially when it affects the youths. The youths are more adventurous. They could also be much more daring. That simply means that there's higher level of diplomacy and tact that is expected of the police. Make any sense for provocation in terms of the release of live ammunition. The sound on its own has a negative psychological impact on the hearer, not to talk of youth. So I think the one thing that is imperative is the police ability to be able to manage this crisis. Because in terms of casualties so far, we are trying to look at end SARS and end police brutality. And you now see the use of force and brutality to quell that agitation. I think it's a paradox which the high command of the police formation should be able to look at. Having conceded to the fact that they are trying to see to what extent they can handle the crisis as quick as possible. Even when the youths are seemingly unpacifiable, but they are still pacifiable. It's a product of approach. The reason why it's like the protest is prolonged this far is because of the antecedent of lack of trust that the government itself has garnered around itself over the years, because many times the government will say, we'll do this, they won't do it. This is the fourth time SARS will be banned. And I think the youth now felt that, look, we are the worst hit. And I'm sure that 1 out of every 10 Nigerians seems to have not too palatable story about SARS. And that's why they are insisting that it should be scrapped. Good enough that the federal government are taking that bold step to scrap it. I expect that by now they would have raised up a committee to look at a holistic reform and restructuring of the policing system. And I also expect that whoever is going to head that committee, I should not come from the police formation, be it retired or serving. If that person comes from the police formation, I would not think that it will be the best of it all. Yes, of course, we could have representative from the police formation and from civil service, civil society, and every other third party. But by now, I expect that the government should go beyond the fact to say that this is just a first step towards the restructuring. No, I think they want to really look at what do you intend to do? What have you done apart from the normal rhetorics? I think that is the major frustration here now. That we seem to have so much of such.
Indeed, Tony, apologies for the interruption, but also even more ironic or otherwise, you may agree otherwise now. The point I'm trying to make now is the protesters are also asking, they're also demanding police reforms. They're also demanding for all those who have been arrested during the period of this protest now to be released, as well as prosecution of this particular SARS operatives. How achievable do you think these demands are?
There's nothing unachievable in it. They are just fair demand. There's no reason to arrest somebody because he's expressing his fundamental human rights to expression. There's no reason for that, especially when it does not involve the issue of violence. He was not accused of killing or attacking person and the like. I don't think it is necessary to hit the polity. I expect the government to unconditionally release all of them. And of course, the issue of prosecuting the police officer is a truism. You remember the issue of Black Lives Matter in America. One of the major agitation of the agitation with respect to Black Lives Matter is the fact that the killers of George Floyd should be brought out and should be prosecuted. So I don't think there's anything special about the fact that the killer of the young man at Oyo State that was brutally murdered, the one in Surulere recently, even in the heat of trying to resolve one crisis. On Saturday, somebody was also, ignominiously murdered. I think these are things that the government should use some of them as scapegoat, so that the impunity that I will kill you and nothing will happen. I think that thing ought to be knocked off the mentality of the average policeman. Understand that the gun is bought with taxpayers' money.
Right.
And they don't have the right to kill the taxpayers.
All right, Tony.
There will not be any other person to